Kun Abhisit, thank you for joining us. How confident are you that you can win the election?
Well, we've been up and down the country. I think when we speak to people, we've got good responses. I think they recognise what we've done over the last couple of years. But they're facing hard times, and they want to listen to us and see how we can help them through, times of high prices. And we're making some solid proposals. And I think with 19 days to go, when they see that their priorities are our priorities, they will come around and support us.
Do you realistically think that you'll get enough votes to be able to form a government? I mean, inevitably it'll be a coalition if you can form government, won't it?
Well, obviously we aim for the most number of seats. We believe we could certainly improve on our performance last time, and therefore we have a realistic chance of forming the next government.
How democratic is it if Pheu Thai win the bulk of the popular vote for you to then form a coalition with smaller parties in order to stop them from governing?
Well, Australia is now used to this kind of scenario. In a parliamentary system, anybody who puts together a majority in parliament is entitled to form a government. But we have a tradition here, that the biggest party gets the first shot. If it can negotiate with the other parties, then it can form the next government.
Do you think that if you do go down that path of forming coalition, that will be an opportunity for dissent and further civil unrest?
Well, it shouldn't be, because, if the elections are free and fair and the rules are clear, everybody should respect the decisions of the people.
How would you describe the mood of the community towards you specifically when you're out and about at the moment?
Well, the country has been quite divided in recent years. So often you see extremes, people who are very loyal supporters of the Democrat Party, the red shirts who are clearly very opposed. But even so, I would say that about 60-70% of the people are receptive to both sides. And when I get to meet them, I've got good responses.
Do you find that you personally, though, get attacked because, verbally particularly, when you're campaigning because of what's happened over the last year?
No, because I've had that since I became Prime Minister. It's been on the agenda of the red shirts, possibly the opposition party as well. It's organised, it's orchestrated, and it's something that they encourage their supporters to do. We don't encourage our supporters to disrupt other parties' campaign.
What would you point to as your successes over the time you've been Prime Minister?
Well, at the national level, I think we've steered the economy through one of the most difficult periods, and the macro figures now speak for themselves, where the performance is strong, the economy is clearly stable, inflation and unemployment is very low. Even our debt-GDP ratio is now declining to quite a low level. So that was a huge challenge when I came in, and I succeeded in steering the economy through that. In political terms, although there continues to be conflict, what we did was to uphold the rule of law. And now that we've returned power to the people, it means that our democracy continues to take further steps forward. But for the people, we've got some policies that have meant a lot to them. The income guarantee program for farmers has changed the lives of so many rural people. Free education, income support for the elderly mean a lot to millions of people.
So the politics that you're talking about, the continued division, is that a failure of your government, the fact that you haven't been able to solve that? It's
something that we continue to have to work on, whichever side wins. And I think people recognize that it's not there's no magic solution to this. It requires time, it requires patience, it requires tolerance, and it requires a leader and a government that can prove itself to be receptive to all ideas.
Would you accept that the community is more divided now than it was when you took office?
I don't think so. I think in many ways there was the basic division there, and the beginning of it all, of course, was former Prime Minister Thaksin, who has been a divisive and a central figure to the conflicts. But I think that the organization of groups like the Red Shirts and with some violent tendencies have made it more difficult.
and yet Thaksin remains a very popular figure. Do you think that you've underestimated that residual popularity?
No, we recognise that some of the policies that he implemented very popular, and he presided over a time where the economy was good, and so there's that basic support for him. But support for Thaksin, the Prime Minister that was there in good economic times, is different for support for Thaksin as a man who has led to so much instability and also caused so much chaos.
Well, of course, he would argue that that's because of a political agenda against him, that he wasn't the cause of the chaos, that the chaos was caused by politics and people trying to bring him down undemocratically.
Well, I think that the corruption charges awaiting him in courts, a court verdict already on what he's done wrong, his record on human rights is very clear.
What about his sister, Yingluck, again becoming a very popular figure? How do you counter that? She has the name. She's undoubtedly making a splash with the community. How do you
we
counter
expected that? A launch of a new face, gets a bounce in the polls. You always see that.
A big bounce, and continuing to increase by the looks of it.
Well, I'm not sure about that. So I think in the final days, when the people go to the ballot boxes, they will have to think hard about the direction they want this country to move. And we're offering to move Thailand forward, putting people's priorities as the next government's priorities, not one man's priorities. And we have the policies that will address those concerns, those priorities.
Inevitably, when people consider the two options, they will consider what happened just over a year ago. Do you accept responsibility for what happened in Bangkok in April and May last year?
Right after the events, we had a censure debate, and Parliament, in fact, has had numerous debates to bring us to account. We've had a number of independent commissions. We're making progress with the cases.
Very slow.
It is slow.
More than a year later.
Everybody wants it to be faster, but you have to recognize the difficulties and have sympathies for the people who work on these cases. And investigations into these kinds of events in other countries usually take time too.
So you're saying you won't accept responsibility until there's a result from those investigations?
I'm saying the truth needs to be known. But I can confirm that the kind of wild allegations made against me, that I ordered a violent crackdown, killings, that doesn't just square up with the facts as if you look at the chronology of events.
What does that mean? Who ordered the army in if it wasn't you?
It was clear that no losses would have taken place had there been no armed elements infused among protesters, firing bombs, grenades, bullets at the military and possibly at people as well.
So you put the blame on the red shirts for forcing your hand to send the military in. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that we had to uphold the law. And we were under tremendous pressure because they were causing a lot of trouble for ordinary people. But we exercised restraint, patience, tolerance. We offered real solutions like concrete dates for early elections, and every time it was rejected by them.
And you put forward a reconciliation plan and all of those compromises which didn't come to fruition, and then you seemed to suddenly take a back seat and the military moved in, and we didn't see you much after that. You went very quiet, I guess, which lends weight to a view that you'd lost control, that someone else was
No, I think it was
it.
very clear. When I offered the reconciliation plan, the red shirts initially said they accepted the plan in principle, but took, I think, over 10 days, and yet didn't disband the protest to move the plan forward. And it was clear we announced how we would deal with the problem. We cordoned off the protests. We set up checkpoints. We didn't move into the protest areas. And we had these attacks on these checkpoints, which led to clashes and regrettably to losses, until it was necessary to tighten up that that space on around Lumpini Park. Again, not moving into the main protest area until the protests were called off.
I don't speak Thai, but I'm told that you've never said sorry for...
I've expressed regret, and I think that I will wait for the reports, the fact-finding reports.
Why?
Why? Because...
I mean, in the spirit of reconciliation, people, red shirt protesters, tell me that it would make a difference to them if you said sorry.
I'm not so sure about that, because I think that we should look at the facts to see who's done what before we start saying who's to blame and who needs to apologize. But I didn't want the losses to happen. I've done all I can to try to avoid those losses. Even after the events, I actually ordered the Justice Ministry to help with legal assistance, getting a lot of them bail. And they can come out and criticize me. You know, I've proven that I'm here to work for all of them, but I cannot please everybody.
Yes, I guess even with all of that, you were Prime Minister when that happened. The centre of Bangkok was a basket case. People were killed. It went on for too long. The way that it was handled perhaps was not ideal on either side. You now have to convince people to vote you in again after presiding over that. How do you convince them that you can actually achieve change?
You know, when the events that took place in the Middle East happened this year, there were so many people that came up to me in the streets and say, now we understand. It's not easy. And error on one side or the other could have led to much, much worse.
So if the key to progress is some sort of reconciliation, some sort of unity to get past this, how do you achieve that when you are inevitably tainted by what happened?
No, I'm saying that if the people vote for the Democrats to lead the next government, we address all people's concerns, including the red shirts. That's the way to move things forward. Not to stir up new controversy about amnesty issue, whitewashing Thaksin.
Well, yes, I was just about to bring that up. I mean, if there is an amnesty put forward by a Pheu Thai government which would, in the end, lead to Thaksin coming back, what do you think the result of that would be?
Well, I think it's undermining the rule of law in the country. We've never had a court verdict overturned by legislation. And this is on corruption charges, and I don't know how many other charges that are awaiting him. I can't see how that's going to serve the people, how that's going to serve the country. People are anxious about issues like high prices, about drugs. They want those problems addressed, not causing more conflicts about whitewashing Thaksin.
And yet there's these lingering legal issues around the yellow shirts as well, this constant discussion of a double standard. I mean, I guess you could argue that legally it would be inappropriate to bring Thaksin back, but then the other side would say, well, look what you've done with the legal system. That side hasn't been appropriately dealt with either.
That's not true. All the cases are proceeding. Isn't it odd?
Since 2008, though, we're now in 2011.
Yeah, and there were cases about red shirts before 2008 or slightly later in 2008, making roughly about the same progress. Isn't it odd, though, that, you know, the Pheu Thai politicians, Thaksin, red shirts win so many cases, and they never complain about double standards. It's only when they lose cases in court that they start saying that the court system's not credible.
I guess one big concern is that regardless of who wins the election, that could cause ructions on one or other side. The Democrats form a coalition, the red shirts will protest. Pheu Thai would say that if they win, then there'll be a coup. I mean, how do we get past this?
Well, how do we get past this?
Gridlock?
First of all, free and fair elections. And I would urge Pheu Thai to stop, or at least to ask their supporters not to disrupt our campaigns, the way we tell our supporters not to disrupt other parties' campaigns. Let's have free, fair elections. Let's respect the decisions of the people on the 3rd of July. Let's respect the Constitution. That applies to everybody, the military included. And let the next government take the country forward, solve the people's problems, and not make themselves a self-serving government. That's the recipe for stability and progress in this country.
Good, Abhisit. Thank you.
Well,